Hello and welcome to the Stacking Dingers Show. I am your host, Matthew, aka Sheep, aka Dark Sheep, and Stacking Dingers is your home for all things underdog baseball. Tonight, I am joined by the Badge Bro, Nez, at Nez Takes, and Chris, our data science extraordinaire. I know you're not a data scientist, but our data guy here at Stacking Dingers at B3 Isball. And you can check out this show and all of our written content over at stackingdingers.com. Tonight, we are starting off. First of all, it's your first night or first show, Nez. Welcome.
Thank you. I know, long overdue. Long overdue. I was really excited to be a part of this. Thankful to be included in the crew, and very excited to start to deliver some deliverables because so far I've just been a byline and don't have anything actually to my name. So this will be the first contribution, and I can't wait. I'm gonna need you guys big time. To start. So this will be fun.
This is a really well-timed jump in. You've been very busy with football and basketball, and right now we are sitting at the precipice of the main contest dropping. As time of recording, we're about 95% through with the way too early contest, otherwise mostly known as the Bullpen. And so maybe even by the time this is out, we'll have the Dinger, which we have a little bit of secret information from our friend Numi. So maybe this is going to be like a hard-hitting expose, or maybe you'll already know this from seeing it. But we do know that the main contest, the Dinger, will be $10 again like last year. And it will be a slightly increased prize pool. So for me, I'm guessing you guys are saying that $10 is a nice price point for that contest.
Yeah, it helps to, beef up the prize pool while also getting that nice sweet spot of the number of entries needed to attract more and more people onto the site. So I'm not sure what he landed on, but based on what he's done since he's been at Underdog, he and Hope, it seems like it's going to be like I would bet it's going to be much flatter. Last year, it was like 20% to first place, I believe. So I would anticipate a flatter contest, but still nice and beefy. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and we do know that there will be other side contests. We don't know any more information than that. I think it's probably safe to assume that some of the formats from NFL, the weekly winners and the eliminator type stuff, is a high possibility. As well as we know last year they had a $3 price point, and so there will be a lower dollar price point. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, and then there'll be more stuff to come, he says, as draft season rolls on. So that's kind of is what it is. I don't know really how to think about the football formats. I'm sure we can get way too deep into those.
I'm sure he's going to keep us busy. I'm really excited. Like, it's so great that we have like a fellow nut like in charge. Like, the inmates are truly running the asylum. So I think Numi's going to keep us busy, and I'm excited to see the different size of contests, different max entry size, different price points that we can get. Because last year it was just Dinger and the perfect game with the warm ups, but I think we're going to have a really fun array of options this season. So I'm really looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is like my favorite sport to draft season long for.
Yeah. And then maybe you'll see the exact names, but we do know that he has been working hard behind the scenes to address one of the biggest complaints that I think people have, and that is that increasing the player pool to obviously the international guys that have already signed, as well as adding some of the top prospects. So that's going to be awesome. I know that's sort of something that is a valid complaint often. I know people want to draft their hot prospects and stuff, and it wasn't really available before.
Yeah,
we're gonna need to sit Tuma down and have him do the 101 on all the big prospect names that get put on this list, because like there's definitely some that we're all familiar with, and there were a couple that are probably going to be maybe a little deeper down the line that the two of us been cooking up to add on there. So if I think we might need write this down for a future show, Matt. But at some point, we're gonna have to get Brendan to like really walk us through like the who is this and how can we help you with, or how much money will we lose on them,
or how much money are we gonna let other people lose?
Correct.
You
and then be wrong. Me, I will let you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, with this sort of point in the draft season, we're kind of using it as a stop and take a look back, and also we'll be doing that in a little bit. But also, I just wanted to like talk, going forward, maybe if you've drafted some of the bullpen contest, maybe if you're just starting out now, like Nez is really starting to get into the baseball prep and stuff. I think something that sometimes gets lost between now and the start of the season is really like understanding how you're playing over that whole course of the time. So what I'm talking about is like planning out now, like how much you want to put into this contest. And maybe that won't be like possible to do if we don't know exactly what's all going to come throughout the year. But just knowing that it's going to come, but also knowing that if you're just going to sit there and click entry after entry or whenever you feel like it, maybe if you want to take it a little more seriously, like planning out how much you're going to draft throughout the year, how much, like let's say you just have a typical 16, 18, 20% advance rate with that min cash just because things go wrong. Thinking about your bankroll, thinking about being comfortable with your losses, and like figuring out how risk averse you're going to be, like how maybe your different builds are going to go, how your different exposures to certain players are going to go. And then the most important thing is by doing that, you can also think about making sure that you're having fun the whole time, because the whole point of these best ball teams is having fun while you're drafting, because obviously there's no in-season stuff. We love that, but it's also not quite as fun during the season because you're not doing anything with the team. So this should be the fun part.
Very well said. Yeah, I think those are all very important things to cover. This is going to be the busiest baseball best ball season that we've had thus far. So these are important things to grapple with if you're somebody that is playing on Underdog with a budget in mind. Definitely important to think about these things and make sure that like fighting the FOMO and understanding like what you can play and what you're comfortable with is very important. And trust me, it's okay to miss out on a slate or miss out on a contest. It's okay. You really don't have to play everything. I promise the company will be fine. There's a lot of baseball to be had. So no, very, very, very good points. Very good points. Don't succumb to the peer pressure of the community. You don't have to compare yourself to other players.
And the different formats are going to offer different types of people, different opportunities for just the way that your brain works with regards to like baseball. Like let's say we get a weekly winners, like maybe you just have a really good brain for like the weekly winners type stuff and building, teams that can, play to those outcomes. Maybe you allocate a little more of that budget towards something like that. Maybe you want the like week in, week out sweat equity of a team and they drop an eliminator. Like maybe that's something that you want to focus on a little bit more. So I think just, have your like, both your money in, money out goals kind of written down in concrete, just for putting up guardrails for yourself, but then also what are you interested in? If they're going to kind of expand this offering of things for us to take advantage of, like think about what you actually want to spend your time doing, and don't rush to cram in like maybe the first tournament or the first like couple weeks, because there will be that urge, and then there'll be other things where maybe we get a 20 max again, smaller dollar kind of thing, and it'll be time boxed. Maybe the window won't be open for more than a week or two. But if you're working on a budget or something, and you want that kind of experience and that ability to fill up that contest, like just have kind of a plan in the back of your mind, like these guys said. I think it's just important to like lay that out there up front so that we all know like this is what the next 10 weeks are going to look like and how we can kind of build towards a healthy and successful season.
Yeah, and the thing you don't think about as you're drafting as much is how long that money is going to be locked up. It's not like you're doing, your weekly battle royale, or for football, or in the case of baseball, you're playing a few days each week. You're getting some money back to keep churning and keep playing a little bit. But like if you're not thinking about also in season, if you want to try baseball daily stuff, and you're not thinking about the fact that, oh hey, once I get that like switch happens a few days before and there's that other contest and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Well, now's the time to make sure that you're thinking about that the whole way through. So that's my dad's speech for the day. So we can move on. So what we have done, thanks to shout out to Reducing Juice. You can find him on Twitter at Reducing Juice, or X, either one. And he has put together a little spreadsheet. I got to change my screens around. He's put together a spreadsheet which you can go through. It's got some very interesting stuff that we're not going to really focus on tonight. But he's got like a bunch of interesting information about what type of players you're taking in certain rounds, team exposures, and all that. So that's pretty cool. Uses your Underdog CSV and just sort of loads it up. But Chris has done a little modifications on this first part of the sheet for a little fun tonight. And this is through 50 drafts of my own, my player exposures, and through 100 of his slow drafts. So we are going to just kind of scroll through here. We had fished for a few names on Twitter of some of interesting exposures people were wondering about that Chris might have queued up. And then Nez, as someone who hasn't really, I think he's got, told me 13 drafts coming into today. Maybe he's going to have some questions and, why or who is that as we go along. So let's start it off in this first round. The first thing, I've gotten lucky on my Ronald Acuna exposure, so I'll just gloat on that to start this off. And then I think it's kind of a mix for us, but Chris and I also seem to be together on Judge and Jordan.
I was going to say, there's a chance that Chris ran hot at the 101 as well, but just took Jordan every time.
It happens. I think I've only wasted one of those picks on Jordan, but it's not going to be a waste when that's like the silver bullet. So I think I got 6 out of 100 101s and spent one of them for bid equity, and then the other 5 spent on probably doing that.
Okay, I'll allow it.
But it seems like you are doing this very similar thing to me where I don't know about if it's distribution or decision, but you might be taking Judge over Soto also more.
I have been, yeah. I have been taking, I would say that most of my Soto, so this kind of hits on something that I wanted to talk about at some point during the show. We can just do it right up front. The ADP plus minus columns on here are basically ADP value. So when I take Soto, how far or ahead or how far or behind ADP am I taking him? And so my Soto shares right now are, my average ADP personally on Soto is 3.4, which is almost a full pick behind where his ADP on Underdog is currently. So what that kind of illustrates is that my Soto shares are when he falls to me at 3 or 4 even a couple times. And that's kind of where I'm picking up my Soto, because I think that the one projection we have right now is Steamer, and his Steamer projection is awesome. And that's really like keeping him locked in at the top. He just gets so much of his value from this like walk floor that he has. And I feel like healthy Judge last year was a monster still. And I really don't like the passing on the Judge upside to take the Soto floor at the 102. So I've been taking Judge over Soto like pretty regularly when I'm faced with that choice. And then I kind of catch Soto when he falls back to me. That's just my Yankee take at the moment. But I think that's kind of where I'm going to be for most of the draft season until something drastically changes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think I'm getting a pretty similar. I got the half point of ADP, and basically 0 on Judge. But yeah, I've been taking him. And then you're higher on Ohtani. I think that's a question that a lot of people have, is how much you're baking in the arm elbow surgery risk into you taking him, and obviously you're taking him as if that doesn't matter.
I kind of have been. I really hate this group and trying to like separate it out. Like it's really tough. Like 4 through 10, I think you kind of can't go wrong. And my pretzel brain and way to get through it is taking Jordan a ton. So I've been doing that all over the place. But for the rest of them, I've had some Otani from early on that has aged well. And then I ended up really low on Julio and Corbin Carroll, which was a little bit interesting to me. I didn't actively go in thinking that was going to be kind of my outcome. And this going through this process, as opposed to just kind of pulling the screenshots from the app, was helpful to illustrate like, oh, I'm kind of really light on both of those guys. And that's maybe something I'm going to try and level out a little bit as we get into like the next set of contests. But the Ohtani one, I think I picked him up at good prices, and I took him probably 5, 6, 7 most of the time. I feel like I wasn't taking him at 4 a ton, but you could honestly talk me into anybody in that tier, like as 4, 5, 6, like anyone, any of those guys, I think can make a case. And when we did our ranks a little bit ago, I had Jordan down there just because that's my favorite guy. I think he has the nuclear. He has like the Judge 2022 potential season, like well within his range of outcomes. So in this contest where it's early and that tier is kind of murky to me, I just thought instead of splitting it up, if I get the Jordan run out this year, like I just want as many shots as possible. And then in the Dinger, I would definitely be flattered to this range because I think this is like getting a top 10 pick this year is just golden. Like you're just gifted this opportunity to like start your team on such a strong footing with these 10 outfielders. So yeah, we're gonna do a lot of talking about that tier, I think, as we go, because they're all good. There's all a lot of pluses and some minuses. You can kind of pick and choose just based on your preferences, but that's kind of how mine's shaken out so far.
I like it. I mean, I would be very surprised if Freddie finds his way into the top 10. I think it will definitely stay with these 10 outfielders for sure. And I am like pretty surprised that Jordan, I'm with you guys. I'm surprised Jordan is down here at 9. Like I don't know there will be a point in the Dinger season that I take Julio over Jordan personally. But I understand the Julio case for sure. You guys seem a little light on the reigning rookie of the year, Corbin Carroll. Have you guys have you guys learned nothing?
No, I don't learn.
Definitely not. Ready to get buried again.
Yeah.
Are you guys like actually like scared of being low on Corbin Carroll? Because I mean, what this dude flashed is just like nothing short of incredible.
So if you look at my ranks, I just have them last on this list, but definitely there is an amount of being scared to the decision. Mostly, yeah, I can't even really pick holes in them based on really. There's like some minor still, like he did tweak his shoulder again last year, the surgically repaired one, and that's really just like really slightly pink flag at this point because it didn't keep him out, and like the speed was there. that was not the question. And then he did show enough power that was part of the question. But yeah, for me, it's just he's last in these 10. So
Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm afraid seeing this and the Julio one, we're like, oh, that's problematic. We need to correct this, because those are two dudes that could just like bury again. Like Julio buried me last year in the playoffs when he didn't do anything all year, and I felt great, and then just absolutely like ran me over with the truck in the semis and the finals. So that was no good. There's something about Carroll's swing. There's something about it that I don't love. It's just not as like, it just doesn't scream to me like that it's in the same tier as these guys. And it's such a weird thing to get hung up on, because he's incredible. And he just did nothing but smash last year. Runs all over the place. Like that ain't going anywhere this year, unless he gets hurt. Like I don't think they're reining him in on the base paths. And like the guy's he's hit at every level, like in every possible way. And delivered last year. Like it won't shock me again. So that's one that I saw and I was like, yeah, we need to correct this.
Had to throw that one out there. He does have a goofy swing and a little bit of a goofy stance as well. He and Alec Thomas both. It looks like they like practice like their stances together.
Legit.
And just have very, very strange swings. So I can understand like aesthetically, like not wanting to have a lot of bags on a guy that like you don't like to watch swing the stick. So that makes sense to me. And just to jump back one more point on the Soto versus Judge thing. Do you think this is like I'm with you. I am Judge over Soto as well. Is this just like a short porch thing where we are just expecting a bump to the home runs because he's playing at Yankee Stadium half the time?
Well, if people are still thinking that, there's been multiple articles disproving that. So what it comes down to is he's going to have to change his swing, he's going to have to pull a lot more balls to actually have an increased amount of home runs. In fact, I think he lost 2 home runs from last year, putting it over to Yankee Stadium, just based on hitting it to the other side.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I've yet to see a ground ball to left field make it out of the park, and Cash is a homer, but like we don't know. He could change that this year. My Soto thing is just hitting is all about like your approach to the plate and your swing is all about trade-offs. You can't, over the long run, you're not beating the pitcher. Like the best guy of all time, 300 hit or whatever, like you're failing 7 out of 10 times. You got to figure out how you're going to try and win. And whenever I look at Soto's stuff, it feels like he has optimized his approach and his swing to like maximize OBP in a way. And it has hurt, I think, the damage that he can do from a slugging and extra base, like that kind of perspective. He is so passive at the plate, just in general. Like he always leads the league in those like chase metrics because he doesn't chase out of the zone, but he's also one of the most passive hitters in the zone. Where his thing is he just doesn't like to swing the bat. And then when he does, he has a tendency, like Matt said, to put the ball on the ground and hit line drives. And he's very good at hitting line drives. But I think in today's game, I want someone like Judge who is not equally as patient, but he is more aggressive in the zone, and he's more aggressive on trying to lift things when he does like get that opportunity. So that's my Soto, the hurdle that I have with his game is he is passive to a fault, I would say, at the plate.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, mine's less complicated. It's just I like Judge more, and he doesn't make it past 3. So it's hard to boost up the exposure to him if you're taking Judge over him. All right, so we could probably talk about the first round for an entire episode, but we'll keep moving a little bit. So yeah, at the 1-2 turn, we get that first group of infielders. Sometimes Spencer Strider or Freddie Freeman is not there. Sometimes somebody takes one of those 2 in the first 10 picks, but usually not. I do see Chris, that you obviously, I think we've talked about this before. You are in on the Strider at this point. I don't think like there's not much to say about Freddie and Matt Olson. I don't think we know who they are. We know why they're going as the first two infielders. The conversation is, should you be taking them over an outfielder? And I just, I think we're pretty much in agreement here that with the outfield scarcity, that doesn't make too much sense. So if anybody has any disagreement with that.
Yeah, I'm a Strider guy, and this is well documented and went really well last year until it didn't. I just think that we've learned a lot about pitching, and last year, like the story of pitching was basically you have this round 5 to round 12 kind of group of guys that just smashed like across the board. They performed above expectation, and these guys at the top just didn't separate well enough to like be worth their cost, either through injury or underperformance. Like it just wasn't worth what you paid. I'm gonna be, as we scroll down the list here, and some of these other guys, I'm gonna be low on like this Cole, Burns, Gosman tier of pitchers for sure until those prices correct a little bit. Strider is going to be the exception for me. I think he gets there in just such a different way than all of these other guys. Like his strikeout numbers and his swinging strike stuff, like he just is on another planet for that. And I think that is something that could just like nuke the scoring format. So if I'm taking an early pitcher, it's going to be him around the turn. I don't have a problem with that. The turn is really hard. Like it's you never feel good. I've yet to like pick one 12 spot team that I've really loved. I've tried to get really weird at the turn just to like mix up some things. Cause like what's really the difference from Freddie down to Pete Alonso, like among the infielders, like that all kind of feels like a bigger, like a closer group than any of those like this. So I've taken like Corbett Trout on the turn. I've taken Wynn Harper on the turn. I've gotten weird. I'm going to be low on Freeman and Olsen for sure. And then I think one of the spots that I saw yours, and I was a little bit jealous, was I want more Wynn, I want more Harper. So I'm going to start putting those two guys up for sure. I think that the Harper injury last year made him such like a draft season lightning bolt because it was like, okay, here you get this discount. We didn't really like get the full price Harper experience, but if we get the full price Harper experience this year, this could look problematic. That he was like the fourth outfielder or infielder off the board. So those two, I am gonna be not the 11, 12, 13 range when we start seeing some fresh ADPs in the new contest. I think those are targets for me.
My observation from this sheet is you being the resident Blue Jays fan, a flat 0 on Vladdy. I mean, I co-sign that, but no little bit of fandom in you at all wants to like have Vlad in your portfolio. I'm just like, hats off, salute, like respect. But I'm all that to say, like, I'm with you. I mean, you can elaborate on this if you want, but like, I just think that's wild.
This miserable team last year just burned out any semblance of hope I had for this offense, and they did. They're taking steps back this year in terms of like making things better. Chapman's walking. The internal reinforcements are not good. Like it's going to be a whole lot of Biggio, Espinal, and like God knows who else at bats in this lineup. And Vlad has the Soto problem of being addicted to hitting the ball on the ground if he also didn't like walking. So that's a tough combo. And I think he needs to make like a fundamental change in the way he hits to make good on like the prospect hype and the prospect tool like that he has. Like he's undoubtedly very talented, but just the way he hits the ball is not conducive to this format. So I got a lot of Pete Alonso because I think he fits a lot better. He lifts the ball and he's trying to hit bombs. And Seager and Devers like in that same range too. Like those two guys feel like I feel way better clicking the button when we get to them. Devers was like one early that I was just spamming on the turn and after the turn. Like he feels really nice in a way that Vlad just zero confidence. And I don't feel like there's going to be a Vlad hype that's going to push him up. I think if anything, he's going to slide. And at that point, maybe I'll start taking some. But like my hopes are not high. Like the morale is low and the bags are empty.
Yeah, well said. I'm just surprised that he's at 24. To be honest, I mean, to me, there's Vlad versus Pete is not even a discussion in my opinion. I'm honestly shocked that that's the current case.
So if you do take a look at Steamer projections, they have him pretty heavy. They're not taking into account the things that Chris is in his observations. I don't have it on ahead of me, but I've been doing some roto drafts, and I do those sort of based off of their auction value, and he is a lot higher than what he's being drafted at.
I mean, you look at the last two seasons, 480 slugging, 444 slugging from 22 to 23 respectively. They've got him projected for a 528 slugging, which he's only eclipsed one time in his COVID season. I'm honestly shocked. Like, obviously the tools are there, but like the sample size is large enough that like it's okay to temper our expectations on the kid. It's like, wow, maybe that'll get me a share here and there seeing this, but like I can't co-sign that.
Yeah, the COVID, like the whole Dunedin and Buffalo, like that is living in our minds, and the changes they made at the stadium here last year kind of went. I think they went maybe a little under the radar as to like how much this was going to hurt some of the guys. Like it was pretty dead for like a good chunk of the year, and that was with like Bo played pretty well. Springer didn't get hurt last year, which is kind of miraculous, and then didn't do much. Like they had guys around. Varsho can't hit at all, which is a problem as well for somebody they expected to be around and be doing that. So I just don't see the lineup being great. I don't see this as being like a very good rising tide situation with the offense. And I would much rather take shots on like I also have no Austin Riley because he just kind of annoys me. And the Braves can't be kind of at this, like they can't perform up to what they did last year, but like Austin Riley, prolific offense. Trey Turner, prolific offense. Corey Seager, prolific offense. Pete Alonso, Like Devers, also a good infielder. Like this is kind of a good range. And then I see the Jays. So not confidence inspiring.
Yeah, this you say Austin Riley. This sheet did point out that not by any reason I have not been getting, and I see your ads here also on Austin Riley. But you said he annoys you. But I don't know. Is that what you said?
Sorry, say that again. My internet cut out.
Oh, you said Austin Riley annoys you?
Yeah, there's just something about the way he is and plays that just, I don't know, it just gets under my skin. And like, there's just something about like him and Albies I have nothing of for some reason. And they buried me last year with very, very minimal shares. But Acuna smashed, like, uber popular, like just kind of life of the league. Olsen, very highly well respected, I would imagine. And then for some reason, just these two guys don't do it for me. And I think that they need to drop a little bit before I kind of start.
Yeah, and this is actually one I want to correct. I do want to add more Austin Riley because obviously outside of my love of Corey Seager, I think he's in a pretty similar camp with Pete Alonso. And I'm not quite as down on Vlad. I got a little bit. But yeah, especially Devers and Riley and Pete Alonso. I see those guys as all pretty similar. Like you said, oh, we lost him. That's all right. We can keep going.
No, I'm with you guys on the Austin Riley train. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like a bias that is poor process, but I didn't have a lot of Austin Riley last year. And with the increased price, I don't see myself getting there this year either, but the offense is obviously like terrifying, right? Like you miss out on a guy like that and the season that the Braves had, and it bites you. It bites you if you're light on any of those pieces. But I will likely be light on Austin Riley myself. I mean, the way that this ADP is laid out, Corey Seager is essentially there for you every time in the second round. So why do anything else?
Yeah. I'm completely fine going forward with 20% of him from now till the end of time. I do want to bring back my Harper a little bit. But it is interesting that you mentioned the Atlanta stack because a lot of pretty much, pretty much one or two people is taking the groups here up at the top. So it is a pretty popular stack, which last year we saw it didn't matter. You wanted them, even if it was a popular stack. They smashed so much. So.
Yep. Yeah. I think we can finally put the rest like caring about chalk. I hope.
Yeah. Let's see. So then we do get this sort of secondary, like looking at the secondary group of outfielders. We know Chris's love for Mike Trout is firmly on display here, which God bless him. I do want to be on with the field on Trout. I don't want to be under or over. He's
said.
A perfect 8% guy for me this year.
Yes, definitely.
Similar, him and I are both at 8% on Kyle Schwarber, who is pretty much just a guy that you're taking because he's outfield and has the smash weeks. So again, and that is another interesting thing you can do on the turn is pair him with a Philly if you want, or take him as your second outfielder at somewhere else in the second round. And then there's this group of Adolis, Randy Arozarena, Luis Robert, Christian Yelich, Michael Harris, and Brian Reynolds. I kind of see these guys all in one group. So let's, as you can see, Chris and I are both pretty low on Adolis Garcia. As we've talked about on here before, we're all ready to get hurt again by that. What are your thoughts on Garcia this year? We haven't had you.
Yeah. So last year I faded Garcia really heavy, and boy did that hurt. I think I'm a convert, man. I think I am just like, hey, this dude slugs like crazy. It's what we care about primarily in these contests, and I've seen it enough of a sample to say, okay, this guy can contribute in a major way. The problem is like where he goes, in my opinion, in that, when constructing rosters, there's just so many really good infielders at his range, as well as like great pitching sometimes that you have to choose from around him. It's not an Adolis thing. It's just like a context of the draft thing, which is really upsetting because I love Adolis, but this is going to be tough to get to him. I think I'm going to be under the field, but it's gonna hurt me.
Yeah, and for me, it's very similar for Randy. I have a few of him compared to Adolis, who I haven't actually clicked at all. But Chris is there because I have been, as you can see by my percentages on, well, obviously Christian Yelich, but also I'm jumping onto the Michael Harris train this year.
Same.
And I've come back to the Luis Robert lifestyle, as we'll call it.
It is indeed a lifestyle. It's funny you said that. Those are two names too that I am that I'm going to be taking a good bit. Yelich, I will just like perpetually be low on, but last year was a really positive sign, I think, for his future, and I think that this Mariners team or Brewers team is also going to be pretty decent as well. I kind of like the offense around him, so
okay.
I mean, I don't know. I just trust the Brewers. I just think the Brewers are a pretty smart team, and it may not look super beefy on paper, but yeah, I can understand the Yelich love. You with the full fade on Brian Reynolds, I can't blame you for.
Yeah, that is like I'm not even trying to.
That's what I mean. It's
or
like
I'm not
it's not
really
an on
that
purpose
down.
thing.
Like, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to score well this year. I'm just not putting him on my teams. The thing with Yelich is, like, if I'm taking a first outfielder, it's not Christian Yelich. It's Luis Robert. It's Michael Harris. It's Randy, or maybe not so much, but it's one of those guys. If I'm taking them here, because those are the guys with the ceilings. I'm taking Yelich as an outfielder too, as an accumulator to go along with my first round outfielder.
Yeah, that makes sense. He definitely fits that outfield 2 archetype.
Which, you could argue that you can fill that later.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I'll have a little bit of everything for sure.
yeah, and then it is interesting here. One name, Marcus Semien, is an interesting name here up at the top. As a guy outside of that first infield group that does not have the ceiling like some of those guys up there. He gets there on ABs, which, I'm pairing him with Corey Seager, but I definitely understand why people are, he's been like the ultimate Iron Man of as close as you get to it in modern baseball. So,
right.
But how often does that turn into the guy who's injured, after he goes through that giant streak of years?
And he's like 33 now as well. I think he's getting up there in years, but I don't think this Rangers offense is getting much worse than last year. I mean, obviously they just won the World Series. A lot of talent around him. Very rare for a leadoff hitter to be able to put up 100 ribbies and 100 runs. I mean, that's phenomenal stuff. And I do think that they still will maintain a pretty deep lineup where he'll be in the position to have runners in scoring position, win on base after the first inning, as well as, being hit in by hitting in front of Adolis and Corey Seager is probably one of the cushiest spots you could be in for a hitter. So I'm going to be up on Marcus Semien this year.
Okay. Then there is the Ellie De La Cruz lifestyle that is a lifestyle that neither Chris or I want to be a part of right now.
I don't, man.
And it's we've talked about before. It's upside versus risk, and we don't see it. Which,
dude, this is the funniest thing. Like going right now. I can't believe this. I seriously can't believe this. If you want to like there's like 2 separate conversations about Ellie De La Cruz. Like as far as like his as a baseball player, cool player, does a lot of flashy things. Like he's a great to watch on a highlight. But for our game, I can't. We don't have enough time in this episode to name all the players I'd rather take over Ellie De La Cruz. Like, I don't know that I would. Man, it's just like this is a gift, and I hope that it stays this high because I want somebody to take Ellie De La Cruz at this spot in my drafts, and I don't want it won't be me, but I pray he stays this high because I'm sorry, man. This is crazy.
Yeah. So the thing I think that the more of the fear I have is that like he's a guy you need in the playoffs.
Yep.
That he puts together these like string of weeks. I'm more concerned with that than him like putting together a super smash season.
And that's totally reasonable, right? And maybe that this is because I do think it's almost a guarantee that we're getting weekly winners in baseball. Maybe you hedge if this is something that we're worried about. Just hedge a little bit to get a little Ellie in the weekly winners and get it in good there. But I'll take my chances.
Yeah. All right. So then we get to some of my favorite pitchers, as you can tell in Luis Castillo and Zach Wheeler. I guess I'm with you on the 0 Ozzy. Just sort of a this is where I'm going to pitcher sort of thing. So I think this is something I probably need to correct, more once I start drafting the dinger is paying attention to these rounds of the draft where I'm taking pitchers, and make sure I'm not missing out on a guy like Ozzy or I do get some Lindor. Gunnar Henderson feels like a little expensive, but I do get some of him. And where I'm usually in on Altuve and this outfield group, I feel like at this point I'm starting to worry about his body keeping up through a whole season.
I'm really surprised Chris has 13% Altuve.
And why are you so surprised?
I mean, you have a type. Let's just say that you totally have a type. But it makes sense if you're going to be like a super overweight Jordan as you are, I suppose. But
yeah,
I'm with Sheep here. This Altuve stuff is a little scary to me. I'm worried about Father Time just squishing him like a bug.
Well, there isn't much left to squish, given what he started with. But he just consistently, I think, the guy is like his entire life is outperforming expectations, essentially.
You're not wrong.
That is one, which is funny because I'm always usually on the other side of like, this is an outlier. It's weird. Like, let's just ignore and move on. Don't pick the outliers. Just kind of let them happen. This is one I feel like he's treated me well previously. And yeah, I think that the Astros heavy nature of my thing, and we'll see maybe in the next box. I got a ton of Bregman too. And that's one that I just think is plain wrong. I think he should be going a lot earlier. I'm curious with them what's going to happen post Dusty, just in terms of like what the lineup's going to look like day in, day out, who's going to be like at the top of the order, especially like where are guys hitting. I've been consistently frustrated, I think, and I think a lot of us have, with the way that this lineup was set up for the past couple of years. Just the refusal to move Kyle Tucker up and a bunch of other kind of things that frustrated the shit out of us, frankly. And I'm curious to see if they can optimize things a little better and make things a little more efficient. And if we get this Jordan season, then my portfolio is kind of supported by. I think that the trickle-down effect of Bregman having a big year and Altuve too kind of like follows after that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then I think you can see for most of the pitchers here, you and I, Chris, have above board exposures, with the exception of Aaron Nola, who just sort of has shown that while he is a workhorse, is not a super high scorer in this format. But we're kind of above board on everything else. You've got, a preference for Glass now. And like, let's see, Framber, I'm a little below. You're at expectation. And then let's see. Yeah, that's kind of that tier for me. Well, actually, I have Logan Webb up there in that tier. As you can see, that's why I have him at 24%, because he goes a lot later, and I have him in that group. Then going against what you said before, you do have a lot of George Springer as part of this outfield group. I guess I'm missing more on these outfielders in general because I'm low on all of them: Jones, Bellinger, Nimmo. Springer I'm a little bit above, but yeah, what's your take on this outfield group here?
Like Ned said, I have a type, and that type is Springer, George. And he's one that I can't quit, which is really unfortunate because last year, if you gave me the crystal ball like last draft season and said George Springer is playing 150 games or whatever he played, like 158 games, I would have ascended. oh my God, all right, it's happening. We're in, like everything is gonna happen, like pushing him up, pushing the chips in, and like he just wasn't that productive. Like day in, day out, like he wasn't putting up points at the same rate as he was in the past. And I think he might have hit a little bit of a cliff. But now instead of going around like the 2-3 turn or whatever he was going at last year, we're getting him in the middle of the fifth, which for me is a good price. This group here is kind of weird. Like Nolan Jones in the top 50 now is a little bit wild. And then Bellinger and Nimmo, I don't know what to do with. So I have exactly the field on them. I kind of just like take them when they're at the top of my queue and hope for the best. At Springer, I'm over. I think mostly as a fact, like a function of being under on the next couple of guys. Castellanos, I'm low on. Miss me on Castellanos at this price. Last year he was going in the 90s, like up 10. He was good. This is steep for me. Santander.
I think he did return decent value though in this
range.
He
was good.
Yeah, Castellanos.
Last year he performed well, and he met expectations. Like he was a solid outfielder for you in the 8th round or whenever he was going. In the 5th, that's a bit rich for me. So I'm low on him. The Orioles, kind of, I don't know what to do. I don't know if you guys hit on my 0% gunner, but that feels so bad. I don't like that. I just never found myself in a spot where I was like really loving him at the top of the queue. I took a lot of Altuve, as we talked about, a lot of Lindor, and a lot of pitchers. So I need some gunner when this thing comes back around. But this Santander, Hap, like kind of in and around even, and then Jazz, I'm low on as well. So like as we get into this crop of outfielders, I'm hoping to have like 3 already, and just like don't bother with this, and we'll kind of swing back around for the next year.
Yeah, the gunner thing is really interesting because if you look at the trajectory of last season and compare him to Josh Young, like basically Young was the rookie of the year favorite in the AL for a long time. He came out of the gate hot and then hit kind of a downswing and then an injury, and then came back and played in the playoffs. Whereas we saw this rising of gunner throughout the season, and if that was backwards, even though they ended up at a similar place, if you like average out the whole season, you'd be taking Josh Young way higher than he's going. So yeah, I definitely do feel a bit weird taking gunner. I do like some mini Oriole stacks. As you can tell, I do have a lot of Santander here. So I do pair him with that a little bit.
I think I'm going to end up having a lot of Orioles. It's going to be hard for me to stomach that gunner price just because any infielder at that range, like I really need them to have a profile that really isn't gunners, to be honest. But for me, it's like, okay, this kid is, high, like very, very highly touted prospect. And the biggest thing for me, to be honest, is like, well, 1, I like the team, and 2, he's a lefty. And these lefties in the AL Central for me, like I just found myself porting the daily stuff over into the best ball streets. I was attacking lefties in the AL Central like crazy whenever they were facing right-handed pitching. Gunner at home, Gunner at Yankee Stadium, Gunner in Boston. I just found myself like getting Orioles a ton. So, maybe this is just like putting that lesson on the wrong player, but man, I just can't help but think about like how often I was targeting Gunner in the daily contest last year.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's a great point. And just with the Orioles in general, not only are we kind of recording today, but happy first positional preview released by Rates and Barrels Day. So check your podcast feeds for that. But they talked about shortstops. And they spent a good bit of time talking about a different Royal shortstop who may or may not be in the next player pool. But when they were discussing Jackson Holiday, DVR was pretty strongly convinced he was either going to make the team out of camp or be called up real quick and be
I think so too.
Yeah, be a difference maker. And that's one that he's going to come in to, let's hypothetically, if he's in the player pool, he would probably be one of these guys. I think that would be on the short list of like top prospect types that would be really fun to see them in. He could be a nice late target early on in the contest when he has no ADP, with the expectation of like he's going to shoot up, take your cheapest stabs at him, and then like basically the case that they were laying out was the Orioles have a ton of guys, but the only direct competition for his at-bats would be Jorge Mateo. That seems like a competition that I would prefer Jackson Holiday. So I think he might be a piece that I lean on late, and that might be where I get some more infielder exposure.
That's a really good point. I'm with you. I think he opens up camp on the opening day roster. He's shown so much that he's just like very clearly a special talent. And the Orioles are also like feeling some pressure from the fans, from the outside in, because they're not really spending a ton of money. And this is one way to kind of remedy that, is like, oh yeah, well, we have a stable of youngsters ready to go. And it would be pretty disgraceful if he doesn't make the opening day roster.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a lot of time to get him at a cheap price.
Nope.
He's one of those guys. Him and Jackson Churio and a couple other of those top names they're gonna get chased up the board. So that is one. We're talking about planning your drafts. Maybe you do the first couple of days, or a little bit more volume than you really want to distribute over to get some of these early values of the new players, and Yamamoto and the other foreign guys coming in too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's scroll down a little bit here. We've made it through like pick 50 in our discussion here. Somehow we were going to get through this whole list. I don't know how. Let's hit up some of the names, Chris, that people asked. If you had those, if you don't, I understand.
Let me look. I do have them written down.
All right. As you can see, I'm all aboard the Freddie Peralta train this year. This is his season. He's going to finally get that like 190 innings.
If he does, then you're talking about a pitcher that, for whatever it's worth, as far as ADP, I think we are, dealing with a brand new landscape of how we value pitchers. But as far as pitcher rankings, if he gets 190 innings, this is top 5 flirting potential for Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, exactly. You can see here I do have my Teoscar Hernandez bags packed now that he's a Dodger. Actually, this is a good question. I feel like Teoscar, Jordan Walker's another one. Who's another outfielder that's risen? Ozuna. Soler's been sliding, but some of these guys in this range that have been creeping up the outfield board, I'm going to have a hard time resetting when the dinger starts. It's going to be hard for me to take Teoscar Hernandez going forward. More he'll be like Dodger stack mates, but I don't know if that's right or not, because the new cost is going to be the new cost. And if I believed in him before, is it right to let that cost from before like really affect my decision making?
I mean, not necessarily the cost, but like Is he going to be platooned? And even if he isn't platooned,
Well,
is he?
yeah,
I
the
think
Dodgers
he's
so.
going to be that valuable against right-handed pitching at this cost.
I kind of agree, and like I had been out at the previous prices, and the plus minus of 18.3, I think, is one of the biggest I have on my list, where it was literally not drafting unless at a point and at a significant discount. So that's one for me that I don't know. He didn't really do much last year that was inspiring to me. And this landing spot, I think, is like very shiny on the surface, with like lineup supercharged. The hope is he kind of slots into that JD Martinez, like that kind of chunk of ABs. I think you're right, Nance. I think he might just get platooned against like especially tougher right-handed pitching. Like they have so many just guys around. I think that they're going to be aggressive, with moving and getting him into like the most efficient at bats possible. Like he's going to get them. He's going to see all of the best opportunities for him, but the number of total opportunities, I think, is going to come down for this landing spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-year deal. This isn't a cornerstone guy. This isn't their guy that they nailed in free agency. It's like, hey, this is going to be a nice piece that fits for us contextually. Is kind of how I'm reading this, and there. Not to say that there's a 0% chance that he could end up exceeding the projected plate appearances, which is always the projected plate appearances are always very very much like with a grain of salt, but. I think that there's legitimate concern there. Are you going to keep packing your bags in the Dinger sheet?
Yes, I will take some. I think Chris said it there at the end. Correct is what I believe. Not that he's going to be platooned, because he is a good outfielder too.
Okay.
Then he does have that over the JD Martinez role. It's just more that he's going to not have as much opportunity as he would on another team. The efficient opportunities, I think, is accurate.
Gotcha.
More so than like a straight platoon. And it's sort of like I don't trust Chris Taylor anymore to bring anything. So like if anything, he's going to be getting like that fifth at bat. He's not going to be out there. I think that's going to happen more often than like a whole game of rest. But honestly, we have that to worry about with the entire Dodgers team outside of Freddie and Mookie.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gavin Lux is an interesting name late, but they still have Miguel Rojas there, and like he's going to mix into that spot, and Jason Hayward's still there, so yeah, there's definitely risk.
Can you do me a favor, Matt, and click over to the Ned questions tab? I just put a picture on there of some weekly scoring stuff from last year. That this was actually about the Stephen Kwan thing that we talked about with Bubba last week.
Yeah.
So I did some weekly scoring stuff for outfielders just in this ADP range. And one of the weirdest ones out of all the like subgroups of people that I looked at was this JD Martinez one. And so the way to interpret this is he was kind of going in the 75 range, which is almost exactly where Teoscar is going now. His average points per week was like kind of in line with the good players on this list. His standard deviation was massive. So he had a bunch of good weeks and a bunch of bad weeks. And I bet if we plotted those out against his usage and against like who they were facing that week, he had 2 weeks where he was one of the top 12 overall scoring players, like across all positions, like smack. And then 5 where he was a top 12 outfielder, which at this price, like among this range, the only guy that really came close was Castellanos, we kind of talked about earlier. I feel like that could be a Dodgers thing. Like we're setting you up for success so well, and you're going to be facing these like chunks of pitches that we have figured out using our infinite brain trust that like, this is the most efficient way to deploy you. So it wouldn't shock me if now I'm kind of making a case for Teoscar, but he could be like a spike week guy. He could be the he runs out in the right week against the right set of pitchers, and he's out there all the time. But if he runs up against like a right-handed buzzsaw, like he's not making a cut. I think so.
Yeah, and that's JD didn't have a defensive position.
Exactly.
So, yeah, this is some excellent work, and I know you're working on some more stuff that eventually will see the light of day.
Eventually.
All right, so do we have some other names? Maybe Nez, you're interested. I know you look through here. Anybody that
not necessarily like a name in the micro, but I wanted to get you guys' thoughts because what's great about this, we're always kind of changing what we think is like best practice in these drafts. And last season, like Chris really had me pilled on, taking good pitching and getting your money in good at pitcher, because there's good pitchers and there's bad pitchers, and it shows and they separate. Well, now we are at the point where maybe that's true, but hitters matter more in a vacuum. And on the whole, you want hitters. Hitters are more important. So we've continually kind of moved pitchers back year after year, and it's really hit in a big way this year with the pitching ADP. Has the fact that pricing on pitching has changed kind of changed the way that you think about pitching, or is it like this is correct now, and I'm still staying at 7 pitching max? I'm kind of curious if the landscape change has made a difference for you guys.
I'm not locked in on what is correct yet. I think this is less bad than it was last year, but like it in very vague and non-committal terms, like it's slightly less bad than where we were at. I think the biggest kind of lesson from last season for me was like this mid-range of like maybe 70 overall to 120, 140. Like that was a high kind of hit rate for pitchers last year. The top of drafts, I'm doing something now that's not finished yet, but I'm trying to chart like where different pitchers were going at different points last year. Like the 12th pitcher off the board, everyone's SP1, like where were they at the start and where did they end? And I guarantee that last year they started relatively low and they ended high. And this year, I feel like that's going to be flatter. But my prediction is that as the tournament expands and as we get into kind of like the season, or deeper in draft season, I should say, the pitchers are going to start moving back up. I think that this kind of mid-tier is going to push up. I don't know if we're going to get the same kind of like helium that the top end saw, but my thing on pitching is that this mid-tier is going to move up. And so I'm trying to just like, we scroll through the list and those guys in the middle, like I got a ton of Rodon, I got a ton of Bobby Miller, I got a ton of Verlander, that kind of Grayson. I have way too much Joe Ryan. So that's one. It's like, okay, I guess so. But like this kind of range here is where my pitching money is at right now.
I guess my follow-up to that, you named a range there, and one player you didn't name that I think is kind of like masking his way into that range is Cole Reagans. Where are you guys at on the Cole train? Because I tell you what, man, I got a bad case of Reaganitis. I think that this guy is just the absolute truth. Am I getting ahead of myself? Where you? I don't know if we got to that point yet. Just curious about this guy, because he just burst on the scene with a trade with the Royals or with the Rangers, and like just showed absolute monster stuff.
I don't know what to do with him. And the fear-based drafting has left me on the outside looking in. I think I only have a couple of shares so far. That tier, you nailed the exact tier. It's like him, Yuri Perez, Hunter Green, like that range. I'm just like fear locked right now in terms of not knowing what to do with these guys, and I I need someone to talk me into or out of some people. So I will take the Reagan's case. Like someone from this range is gonna absolutely smash this year. And there's Mitch was like a late round star last year. Now he's pricey, but like one of these guys is going to be a difference maker. I don't know who it's going to be. So maybe the answer is like take a bit of each and just hope that you like hit it right. But I'm very excited to get more of the not even necessarily like the underdog specific takes on these guys, but like what does Eno have to say about these four guys? Like I really want to hear kind of like his thoughts on this range because I think it's super interesting. I don't know what to do.
Not to mention, Chris and I are just too busy clicking Riley Green here.
Oh fuck yeah, man! Riley Green is the absolute like the smashes in these drafts right now. I'm so with you guys. I think out of my like small collection of drafts, I think I'm at like 75% Riley Green because I only have like less than 20. I mean, it's a shame he was hurt as often as he was last year, but like that is the only reason why his price is not
100%.
like Nolan Jones range. And you could stack him with Kerry Bonds. I mean, come on, dude. This is a little too easy.
People keep not taking Kerry Bonds and he keeps sliding in ADP, which means I have to keep taking more. And so I have all of this very poorly aged Kerry Carpenter because I keep taking him and his price keeps getting cheaper. So that's one where just like the Tigers, the pesky Tigers, shout out CLT, but they are my Tigers back. We need a little more torque, I think, just to even things out. But like Riley Green and Eloy, I think in this range are two that it's just like the screaming buys to me. Like this feels very nice to get them as like your fourth or fifth outfielder at this point. Like it feels nice to have that kind of like sewed away, and they can be your upside guys.
Yeah. So to move back into like all these questions that you had, Nez, in pitching, I have obviously not, I've for a long time, I've been no pitcher in the first two rounds, right?
Right.
And that's sort of been my motto. The hitters are too valuable there. And then I am going right back to that next group. I'm getting 2 or 3 guys from that next tier and then missing out on these guys here. As you can see, Keller, Ragans, Green, Yuri Perez, I have a little bit from back when he was cheaper. You can see my plus 17 picks there. So in general, I did not learn a lesson from last year. I am still investing in those guys at the top. And I'm going with them just because I guess my idea is just because some of them didn't work out last year doesn't mean that they're going to work out this year. And just because this range of pitcher had some screaming like upside guys doesn't mean they're going to have them this year. This one that we're looking at. I will say that I do have a bunch of slows going, and I have been working in some Mitch Keller lately, which I don't know. This is definitely the range to. I think Chris has it right. Just mix and match, and unless you have like a really great guy that you want to target. So either take a strong stance or mix, I think, is probably the right way, because I would say that we don't actually know who the outlier here is going to be.
Yeah. I don't think we do either. So I will be scattering shots. I wish these guys were in different pockets of the draft so I could get a little bit of all of them, especially Mitch. Part of the Mitch thesis last year was that I was one of the only people taking him. So I loved getting Mitch at way less than 100% drafted. And I actually believed in what he did last year. Now we get into this season where, he's coming off a very hot and cold season. And I promise this is not going to take a lot of time. I'm not about to go on a gigantic Mitch rant here, but hot and cold season last year, threw more pitches than he ever threw. I have concerns about him coming off of that large workload going into this season. I'm not so sure that he can like get better. Maybe he can do what he did last year, which like would be good. There's nothing wrong with having a pitcher that throws 200 innings and has a greater than 9 K9. You'll take that. But I think you're hard pressed to get more than that out of Mitch, and that's not necessarily what you're asking for at this price. But I'm not so sure that is his median range of outcomes either. What he did last year, obviously, I guess.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think he is a guy that still has that hot streak in him. So that's why I don't want to be completely out on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously again, this is a trajectory of the season. If the ramp had gone the other way, he'd be even higher. But I think he's landing here in the middle with guys that we have similar workload and skill questions about, I guess most people don't have Cole Reagan's skill questions. Just more like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Which we know a little bit of where it came from. So we did have some names. We're going to keep going here. Usually we cut this off at an hour, but there's too much good stuff here. The dinger's coming out. We're excited. So we got some names from people based on our exposures and what people are asking about. So CJ Abrams is a guy who is going at 89% or 89. We have him at 0%. Both. He is going at pick 89. He did not make my top 100 rankings when we put those out. And it's the sort of thing that he showed finally some, like, he came into the majors really young, and then there was a lot of hype, and then there was nothing. He was flat. And then last year we finally saw like some of that hype come to fruition. He found some power. He steals bases. He plays shortstop. He's not going to lose playing time. But ultimately, for me, when you're looking at him next to Tristan Casas, Yandy Diaz, I'm also out on Nate Lowe at this price. And even some later guys like Dansby and Xander, I just have a hard time grabbing him.
Awesome season last year. I do draft Abrams, but I'm not going to be much higher than the field on the kid. But I did like what I saw last year. Kind of liked him paired with Lane Thomas as well. And again, I mean, this could very well be like bad process, but like, I like my little lefties, man. And, this dude is going to face a lot of right-handed pitching, plays in a good park, decent lineup around him. Whether or not Lane Thomas is real or not, who's to say? But with the speed element too, I don't think he's a bad pick, but I'm not like pounding the table to have more than the field.
Yeah, I think him and Lane Thomas are a very similar case. They were mega compilers on a terrible team, and they got there through volume and flashing some skills for kind of the first time in their careers. And that feels just not good when I'm clicking that in the top 100, truthfully. I would rather try and take my very cheap shot later to find this year's Lane Thomas and CJ Abrams. Like, go find me some random A's that might put up like the this year's Abrams and Lane Thomas stuff. Go find me this year's whoever. Like, I would just like to take those shots later. I think it's definitely one of my blind spots, and I had it last year too, which is like these guys that are on bad teams that are going to get there through volume. I just feel like there's such a tightrope to walk sometimes when you're paying these prices I think we're buying the ceiling on these two guys particularly. And I think that it was a tough look for me positionally and just player wise.
Yeah. In their defense, they do still they're in line for that same volume this year. And additionally, CJ Abrams is still really young, that he's on an upward, whereas Lane Thomas is probably maybe peaked more so. But yeah, I'm with you there. That it might be some psychological bias too of buying the top that we don't want to do as much. Another name right here is Tristan Cassis, and we just hang around with Tuma too much, so we can't not click Tristan Cassis.
Did
Too
you?
much, too much, some would say.
Huh, it's weird that doesn't say Ted Williams. Passes. No, I thought we were talking about Ted Williams here for a moment.
Yeah, do you want to explain what you're talking about there?
I mean, the TLDR is didn't he like low key call him Williams? Like,
Yeah, it was a tweet somebody shared in Teddy. Oh, now you broke it all.
it's all the sheets.
That's all you need. The sheet is rebelling against the comp. So I think that's all we need to know.
Yeah, he tweeted something about he was just comparing some of his stats in his age 23 season compared to Ted Williams' age 23 season, which he's a confident guy. We'll say that much. He's a confident in himself. I do still kind of worry that he's sort of an outsider when it comes to team dynamics and thought processes, which is usually good. We want people that think for themselves, but also there's a lot not a lot. There's some conversations of him not really buying into any like sabermetrics or any sort of that sort of side of stuff. So there is some fear for me for that, but I am grabbing him. So
no, he's a good pick. He's a good pick. Plays a good part. He's a good hitter. He makes sense. I'm honestly a little surprised he doesn't go a little bit higher, but that's probably the infield designation.
Yeah, and there's a group there of infielders, young infielders that are fun to click together. Royce and Cruz, who are a little bit higher, but Cassis, Torkelson. So this one comes in from our friend John. He was talking about Tyler O'Neill. This is a pretty drastic difference for you and I, Chris. You are ready to get hurt again in Tyler O'Neill land. I am not. So I don't think his body is made for baseball. That's the simple answer here.
You know what? It's very possible. He may not be like the right brick shit house for hitting baseballs, but bench pressing, he has it figured out. We are banking on one of these years that maybe he just cuts back and does some yoga, does some batting practice, that kind of thing.
I feel like we had those articles in St. Louis that he was getting into yoga already.
You know what? We did. But maybe the Boston yoga is different than the St. Louis version. I'm just scrolling through these names. I feel like I have a little bit of a Red Sox thing going on, which is mildly alarming. I wonder how much of this is tied to my Devers exposure. And then the one guy that I don't really have a ton of is Duran. You also have a Red Sox thing, because the first thing that hopped off the page for me was that story number. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit jealous. I want more of that. If he's actually healthy, this feels really good.
Yep.
Why take CJ Abrams at 89 when you can take Trevor Story at 170? That feels like a good value proposition to me. So that was one. I wrote that down in the notes for the dinger. More Story. That's on the list.
Yeah, and my difficulty is that he hasn't really raised in value, so I just keep taking him at this similar rate. It doesn't feel great until it happens that he is healthy and he is good, because as I've said before, like even his last year in Colorado, he didn't exactly smash. So it's been a while since we've seen a really great Trevor Story season. But when you're, comparing him to Justin Turner there, I guess he's an outfielder. Sorry. I mean, Josh Naylor is fine. But a good Trevor Story is going to be hitting third in a pretty decent Boston lineup, or up there. So I don't know.
Wait until I tell you where a good Josh Naylor is going to hit.
Same place as before.
I'm just messing with you. I'm the resident Josh Naylor stan, so I'm gonna. I wish he was free like last year. Like I just want to tilt just for 2 seconds here. I can't believe that like I was in on like Mitch Keller, Isaac Paredes, Josh Naylor, all these guys that went like completely undrafted, and I didn't make a single final. LOL. Just LOL. This is the year I get back though. This is the year I get back there. But wow.
Yeah. So yeah, the question, Tyler O'Neill, he is an outfielder though. So I definitely get it. And I think depending on what happens in spring, we might see even more rise on him. Like could potentially see that. Like who's gonna rise, him or Lourdes Gurriel? Probably him, or maybe Jared Kelenic. But
what do you think would like cause a rise with O'Neill? Just like general, just like public waking up, or like a storyline?
We haven't seen him play for a while. Like,
yeah,
just seeing him and hitting and be like, oh yeah, that guy's huge. He's gonna smash the ball. He can smash the ball, and if he's doing that in spring, watch out.
Yeah, I'm into Tyler O'Neill too.
Maybe I've just been hurt too much.
Oh, he's hurt us plenty,
and himself.
No question about that.
All right, so the next name, Nick Lodolo, is a name that popped up. I think maybe I even put this on the list. I don't remember, but this is one that we are very extremely different on. Chris has got 26%. He is going at 153. So I'll let you take the floor first.
So my Lodolo pitch is context. I got 26 shares. I would imagine like 20 of those, he's probably my 5th or 6th pitcher. Like he's not a foundational piece of my like starting rotations. He is I feel good. We're gonna lay on some upside. Because I think in this range, on like a per inning, per plate appearance basis, he's got the goods to score in this format. And if you punch in the steamer projections, he is the one guy in this range other than now Chris Sale, who has moved up, that is above 1.4 points per plate appearance for a pitcher. If we're just looking at that, like points per plate appearance, so taking all the health and volume stuff into it, Sale is at 1.44. The next guy that's above 1.4 is Hunter Green, if we're going up in ADP. And then the next guy after that is Rodon, Freddie Peralta, and Max Fried. So like there's actually very few guys that hit this like 1.4 under projected points per plate appearance among pitchers. And he's the cheapest right now. So he's my like last effort to add some ceiling to my staffs. I've done it more than I planned on it. Brandon Fott was the one that I knew I wanted a lot of. And that one, I feel good about that being like a hefty number in the same situation. Like I'm taking him pitcher 5, pitcher 6, and then calling it a day. That one I knew I wanted. The Lodolo one kind of came out of left field, but I think I'm okay with it so far, and I'm going to kind of ride these two guys in this range, and hopefully get some upside in this.
Yeah, I'm much more on board the Brandon Pfaadt thing, just because I think the improvement we saw last year of him, just the changing where he was throwing on the rubber, like, just was the right thing for him, and at this cost. The other thing, it's interesting that you bring them up, because the it is a points per plate appearance versus potential innings pitch decision that you're making here. And a lot of times on these, after the guys that you really love at pitcher, that is the balance that you're trying to decide, because Nick Lodolo has not ever really had any volume in any of his career. And Brandon Pfaadt, despite having a really poor part of last season, did reach like 160 innings and then pitched in the playoffs. So for me, I'm just afraid of that for Lodolo. Not that he's injury prone or anything, but just that he's never had the workload. His balloon is not inflated as the Tomb article went.
That's always fair. I think that's always like a fair thing to note, for sure. I'm gonna have Lodolo shares, though. I will say I will have Lodolo shares.
Looks like 2022, he had about 115 innings. Like that's the top, which is not great. He's currently projected for 118, based on what the
Interesting
fan graphs have. So I am just gonna. I got a little bet on the tail to the upside of can he stay healthy for the right? Can he stay healthy for the right part of the year? If he misses time in May, I'm good. If he's around in August and the beginning of September, with the maybe the advanced off schedule helps kind of cut down the injury window this year. We'll see, but that's kind of my mini take. Dinger, I'll have that.
Yeah. So sticking with pitcher, we did have a question about Joe Musgrove, who Chris is a little bit over. I would like to actually be with the field. Looks like I'm at 6, so not quite exactly where I want to be on him.
Dude, you need to be over the field on Joe Musgrove. Please. Like, his price is going up. I promise you. This 112 ADP is going to go up, because I'm going to make it go up. I mean, I guess maybe I'll put the ball in your court, because like you're the odd man out here with the 6%, which is like, not disgraceful, but do you have concerns, or is it just like where he goes, you're doing other things?
Yeah, so he is sort of in this range, of the similar range with Reagans and Green, Yuri Perez. I am over on Zach Eflin here in this group, and a little bit over on Chris Bassett. So maybe I am playing it safe here, and definitely think that Joe Musgrove probably deserves to be in that conversation with those other guys, Reagans and Outman. I mean, obviously he's had a great workload in a few years. And like part of his issue last year was he dropped a weight on his toe.
Yeah.
Not really that sort of thing that you're concerned about.
Right.
I do want more Joe. So
yeah, I think that's the big thing, right? Is like he didn't miss time because of like elbow or shoulder. Like, I mean, he did have a couple other like injuries on top of like the
he
weight
did have
on
a
the
shoulder.
toe.
He did have a shoulder when he came back. So from the
but for me, like, I mean, back-to-back years of 180 innings before last season, just an excellent pitcher. Nothing has changed as far as the stuff goes. So plays in a good park. I'm gonna have a lot of Joe Musgrove. Got a lot.
And they need him to pitch this year.
Yes, he's going to be their horse.
Yeah,
needs to be.
Who knows what Yu Darvish is at this point?
He's got an interesting ADP. I don't know what to do with it.
We're going to put in word that we need Musgrove on the Tyler O'Neill plan. No more weights, just yoga. If he drops a mat on his foot, I'm okay. can't have him dropping dumbbells on the foot anymore. Because
Agreed.
otherwise, I think we get a good season out of him last year. We might get another good season this year. So I'm in, and I think that out of that group, we can like mix and match with the upside guys. But I think Musgrove's one I'm going to want to be over on a little bit.
Yeah, and just bouncing off the you Darvish discussion, I'm missing out on him because I have a pretty big couple of stands here where he's going in Hunter Brown and Jose Barrios. So that's kind of my issue with Darvish is I like those two other guys. Hunter Brown being another young pitcher who struggled but has his balloon inflated for innings. And Jose Barrios, who's just, I think, consistently underrated as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got one more name, Brian De La Cruz, outfielder. He's sitting at 191. Was it, or was it Ellie De La Cruz? You wrote down De La Cruz.
No, it's the good one, Brian. Just kidding. We got to do the like Ellie O'Neill Cruz Royce Lewis show at this point because I feel like we all have thoughts and like that's when we gotta have Numi on for the Royce Lewis segment, and then as you can defend O'Neill Cruz, and we can find somebody to go talk about Ellie. But
I was gonna say maybe I'll just have to play the devil's advocate and come up with the Ellie De La Cruz argument.
A real role reversal. You can be the other guy. Those prices don't make sense, truthfully, the three of them when you look at them together. This one, I have zero feelings whatsoever about. Like, doesn't do anything for me either way, truthfully. So I got not much. Maybe I have some more, but not a priority.
Yeah, I definitely have taken a couple of De La Cruz with Jake Berger, but I'm definitely taking more just Jake Berger on his own.
Yeah, I'm good on Brian De La Cruz. I mean, just not a lot of slugging there. And as far as outfielders go, like I want different things than what Brian De La Cruz offers, which is just like he doesn't even have a lot of ceiling, and like the floor is not great. And I don't know what's up with this team either. Leote, Kepler, Sal Frelick, all better clicks for my money than De La Cruz.
And for my money, I'd rather just already have my 6 outfielders all the time in here.
That too.
And I'm like tacking on like 2 infielders and a pitcher here.
Yeah.
All right. We did promise someone that we're going to get to a little game here. So we're going to keep running. Just one more little tiny segment. So last week we had I put together a couple of questions, trivia stump to try and stump those guys. You guys did really good last week. This one was viewer submitted from C. Yoder or Yador. I'm sorry, I don't actually know how to say your screen name, but over in the Badge Bros Discord over at Deposit Kingdom. So we have 2 hitters here, player A and player B. One is, these are their 23 stats. The age is there. Player A is 30. Player B is 25. And then with the exception of, maybe a higher hard hit percentage at player A and a bigger stolen base percentage, or not percentage, but a bigger stolen base amount in player B. Otherwise, they're pretty much very similar 2023 seasons from these stats. Obviously, there's stats missing here from certain things that might give it away. But the object of this game is pretty simple. See if you guys can try and figure out who maybe one or both of them are. And I don't know if you want to maybe you want to ask yes or no questions, or I don't know. I didn't really plan this, but I just thought this is a really interesting pair of players. I will say they're both very talked about, and we did talk about both of them tonight.
So I don't think it is. I really want to say, is the player B Luis Robert?
No.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
What led you to that? The stolen bases plus the power?
Yes. Yeah, with like the K rate, like that to me said Luis Robert.
That it's very interesting that you would say that with who player B is.
Really
Interesting. Yeah. So there are two guys that swing a lot and miss a lot. Like these are high strikeout rates, high whiff rates, that's a high chase rate for player A. Like 30% of the time is up there. That's a high rate too. Are these guys both?
They both have the same position on Underdog.
Okay.
I won't give you the position yet, but maybe that'll be the next clue when you need it.
They both have the same position. I think I need another.
Okay, they're both outfielders on Underdog.
Is player A? Did he play in the World Series last year?
He, in fact, did play in the World Series last year.
Is player A Adolis?
Player A is Adolis Garcia.
Okay,
a guy that we are both pretty far out on because of this chase rate, and year over year he has this chase rate and punishes us. So yes, you got that correct. I was actually kind of surprised. I didn't realize he stole the 9 bases.
I remember that being a talking point during the playoffs. Was like, so he just decided not to run anymore. Huh? Interesting. But he's his traps are the size of Tyler O'Neill's thighs, so he was doing a lot of lifting as well. So I can see why that weighed him down. So player B is also an outfielder who's cheaper and faster. Not cheaper, sorry, younger and faster, and also likes to swing and miss a lot.
He is cheaper.
I'm racking my brain here. Can you give me AL or NL for this guy?
This guy is an NL player. He is a top 100 draft pick, or not. He is in the top 100 ADP. I'll narrow that down. It's not like we're going like some really far outside of ADP guy that we're comparing Adolis to.
Let's scroll this list.
Yeah, I might just need to look at my rankings here. So NL, 25 years old, 20 stolen bases, and he's top 100.
Is this time machine Nick Castellanos who could also run?
No.
Damn.
Wait a second. No.
Yeah, go ahead, Nez.
No. That's not. No, I know it's not. I know it's not. Never mind.
Okay. You're not even going to guess?
No, it was a bad guess.
Okay. All right.
Lane Thomas is not 25, right?
I think he's older.
Okay.
He's not Lane Thomas.
Okay. And it's definitely not Stephen Kwan, right?
Definitely. No, too many strikeouts.
I was going to say that dude does not whiff at all. Okay.
Is this Michael Harris?
It is not Michael Harris. No, I think he had more stolen bases than that.
Yeah.
Is it Jazz?
It is not Jazz, no. All right. It is. Oh, we'll narrow it down. It is a top 50.
Top 50
ADP player. We've
Nolan Jones.
It is Nolan Jones.
Oh my god.
So this is super interesting, and why I wanted to bring it up. And after he posted it and sent me the answer, is because we have the same exact arguments against these guys, right? That we were worried about the chase rate, their late breakouts in age, and one of them has continually punished us year over year for the last 3 years based on his output in Adolis Garcia. And here we are talking about Nolan Jones maybe being a bad pick, despite showing a very similar profile with added speed. And that 20 is not even over the course of a season. So
Interesting.
there you go.
This was a good one. Shout out to C and Nor.
Yes.
That was quality. That was
That was
worth it.
All right. So here we are, hour and 45 into the recording. We had some just difficulties. As you now learn after watching this, I do not edit any of this after the fact. So you will see Chris disappearing. I do not have those skills or the time. But if you stuck it through all the way through, thank you everybody for watching. We will be back again next week. We will have that player pool for the dinger. We will have probably the prizes to talk about, and probably something else fun with some sort of setup of the group of us. So for Nez, for Chris, for myself, and everybody, have a good draft season.